Good morning, and welcome to Future Forward, our weekly forum on pivotal societal questions. Today, we delve into a topic that is reshaping our roads and, potentially, our planet. Are electric vehicles genuinely the ultimate answer to our future transportation needs? It's a question sparking considerable debate, and we have two distinguished guests to help us navigate this complex issue. On one side, we have Dr. Evelyn Hayes, an esteemed environmental scientist and a strong advocate for sustainable technology. And offering a more cautious perspective, Mr. Tom Skeptic, a respected automotive journalist and consumer advocate. We'll begin with opening statements, followed by rebuttals and a moderated discussion, concluding with closing remarks from each of our guests. Our aim today is to foster a balanced, evidence-based discussion. Dr. Hayes, if you would please begin with your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. It's a privilege to be here to discuss what I believe is a transformative and essential shift in how we move. The core argument for electric vehicles is compelling and multifaceted, rooted firmly in scientific evidence and a vision for a healthier planet. It's undeniable that the transportation sector is a significant contributor to global greenhouse gas emissions and urban air pollution. Electric vehicles offer a direct and impactful solution to these critical problems. By transitioning from internal combustion engines to electric motors, we can dramatically reduce tailpipe emissions of carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. This translates directly into cleaner air in our cities, mitigating respiratory illnesses and improving public health substantially. The evidence clearly indicates that widespread EV adoption is a cornerstone strategy in combating climate change. Beyond the environmental imperative, technological advancements in EV technology are making them increasingly practical and appealing. Battery technology, for instance, has seen remarkable progress, with energy density increasing, costs decreasing, and lifespans extending significantly. Modern EVs boast impressive ranges, often exceeding 300 miles on a single charge, and performance that can rival and even surpass their gasoline counterparts. The perception of EVs as slow or limited is rapidly becoming outdated. Furthermore, the long-term economic advantages are substantial. While the initial purchase price can be higher, EV owners benefit from significantly lower running costs due to cheaper electricity compared to gasoline and reduced maintenance requirements because EVs have fewer moving parts. Societally, the reduced reliance on fossil fuels enhances energy security and can lead to considerable savings in healthcare expenditure due to improved air quality. Therefore, embracing electric vehicles isn't just an environmental choice. It's an economically sound and technologically forward-thinking decision. The transition is not merely desirable, it is necessary for a sustainable future.
Mr. Harrison, thank you. And Dr. Hayes, your points are certainly well articulated. While the environmental arguments for electric vehicles are indeed compelling, and the vision of a silent, emission-free urban landscape is attractive, we must approach this transition with a healthy dose of realism and scrutinize the current readiness for such a sweeping change. It's important not to overlook the significant challenges and unanswered questions that accompany the push for widespread EV adoption. My primary concern revolves around the life cycle impact of EVs, particularly their batteries. The production of these high-capacity batteries is resource-intensive, requiring the mining of materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel. The ethical sourcing of these materials, particularly cobalt, is a serious concern, with documented issues of labor practices in some mining regions. Moreover, the manufacturing process itself is energy-intensive, and if the energy used comes from fossil fuels, the initial carbon footprint of an EV can be substantial, sometimes taking several years of emission-free driving to offset compared to an efficient conventional car. Then there's the issue of battery disposal and recycling. While progress is being made, we are not yet at a stage where EV batteries can be recycled efficiently and economically on a mass scale. This raises concerns about future waste streams and the environmental impact of end-of-life batteries. Secondly, the infrastructure required to support a fully electric fleet is far from adequate in many regions. While charging stations are becoming more common in urban centers, vast swaths of suburban and rural areas lack sufficient public charging options, particularly fast charging capabilities. This range anxiety is a very real deterrent for many consumers. Furthermore, a massive shift to EVs will place a considerable strain on existing electricity grids, potentially requiring expensive upgrades and raising questions about grid stability, especially if charging peaks coincide with other peak demand periods. Finally, we cannot ignore the consumer perspective. The higher upfront cost of many EVs, even with subsidies, remains a significant barrier for the average car buyer. Coupled with uncertainties about battery longevity, replacement costs, and resale values, it's understandable why many consumers remain hesitant, despite the acknowledged benefits.
Thank you, Mr. Skeptic. Dr. Hayes, you have an opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you. Mr. Skeptic raises some valid points, many of which are common concerns surrounding the EV transition. However, I believe it's crucial to contextualize these challenges within the rapid pace of innovation and the proactive measures being implemented. Regarding battery production and life cycle, the industry is acutely aware of these issues and is investing heavily in solutions. Research into alternative battery chemistries that reduce reliance on problematic materials like cobalt is advancing rapidly. Some new battery formulations already use significantly less or no cobalt at all. Furthermore, the narrative around battery recycling is evolving. While challenges exist, significant strides are being made in developing more efficient and commercially viable recycling processes. Companies are now designing batteries with recyclability in mind, and the concept of a circular economy for battery materials is gaining traction, aiming to recover and reuse valuable elements, thereby minimizing new mining requirements. It's also important to note that the carbon footprint of EV manufacturing is continually decreasing as production processes become more efficient, and as the electricity grids powering these factories become greener. Life cycle analyses consistently show that, over their operational lifetime, EVs have a significantly lower carbon footprint than gasoline cars, even when accounting for battery production. On the subject of infrastructure, it's a challenge, certainly, but one that is actively being addressed through substantial government and private sector investment. We are seeing an exponential growth in charging station deployment globally. Smart grid technology is also being developed to manage the increased electricity demand intelligently, facilitating charging during off-peak hours and even enabling EVs to feed power back into the grid, a concept known as vehicle-to-grid or V2G. The upfront cost is also trending downwards as battery prices fall and economies of scale in manufacturing are realized. When total cost of ownership is considered, including fuel and maintenance, EVs are already competitive with, and often cheaper than, conventional vehicles over their lifespan. The urgency of the climate crisis demands that we don't let these solvable challenges derail the transition. The alternative, continuing our reliance on fossil fuels, has far more severe and irreversible consequences.
Mr. Skeptic, your response?
Dr. Hayes presents an optimistic view of technological progress, and I acknowledge that advancements are indeed being made. However, while future advancements are promising, consumers are facing the current realities now, not the projected solutions of 5 or 10 years down the line. The promise of widespread, efficient battery recycling is still largely a promise. Today, the infrastructure and economic viability from mass-scale recycling are not fully established. Consumers buying EVs now are doing so with uncertainty about what will happen to their batteries at the end of their life. Similarly, while charging infrastructure is growing, its distribution remains uneven, and the user experience can be inconsistent with varying charging speeds, payment systems, and reliability. For someone living in an apartment without dedicated charging, or for those who frequently travel long distances in areas with sparse infrastructure, an EV can still be impractical. A crucial point that often gets glossed over is the source of the electricity used to charge these EVs. Dr. Hayes mentioned greener grids, but in many parts of the world, a significant portion of electricity is still generated from coal or natural gas. Charging an EV with electricity from a coal-fired power plant significantly diminishes its overall environmental benefit compared to one charged with renewable energy. Therefore, claiming EVs are universally zero emission can be misleading. They are zero tailpipe emission vehicles. The true greenness of an EV is intrinsically linked to the carbon intensity of the electricity grid powering it. Practical concerns for consumers also persist beyond just cost and range. Charging times, even with fast chargers, are still considerably longer than refueling a gasoline car. This can be a major inconvenience on long journeys. Furthermore, the resale value of older EV models, particularly those with smaller battery packs or outdated technology, can be a concern for buyers. So, while I don't dispute the potential, I urge caution against presenting EVs as a perfect, immediately available panacea without acknowledging the very real hurdles that still need to be overcome for the average consumer and for the environment as a whole.
Some very pertinent points from both of you. Let's move into our discussion segment. Dr. Hayes, Mr. Skeptic brings up a valid point about the source of electricity. How crucial is the transition to renewable energy in conjunction with EV adoption for the overall environmental benefit?
That's an absolutely crucial synergy, Mr. Harrison. The full environmental potential of electric vehicles is indeed unlocked when they are charged with electricity generated from renewable sources like solar, wind, or hydropower. However, it's important to clarify that even when charged on a grid that includes fossil fuels, EVs typically still offer a net life cycle emissions benefit compared to internal combustion engine vehicles in most regions. This is because electric motors are inherently more efficient than combustion engines, and centralized power generation, even from fossil fuels, can be more stringently regulated for pollutants than millions of individual tailpipes. Moreover, EVs provide immediate localized air quality benefits by eliminating tailpipe emissions in urban areas, which is critical for public health regardless of the electricity source. But to truly maximize the climate benefits and achieve deep decarbonization of the transport sector, the greening of the grid must happen in parallel with EV adoption. They are two sides of the same coin, working together for a sustainable energy and transport system. The benefits of EVs are amplified significantly when the energy ecosystem that supports them is also clean. This is why policies promoting renewable energy development are just as important as policies promoting EV adoption.
Mr. Skeptic, considering the ongoing investments and technological progress that Dr. Hayes has alluded to, do you foresee a point where your concerns about infrastructure and battery technology will be adequately addressed, or are some of these fundamental long-term barriers?
Progress is being made, Mr. Harrison, no doubt. I don't believe these are insurmountable barriers in the very long term. Science and engineering have a remarkable track record of solving complex problems. However, the scale and timeline are what concern me. Adequately addressing global charging infrastructure, for example, requires immense investment and coordination, far beyond what we are seeing in many places. It's not just about the number of chargers, but their reliability, speed, and accessibility. Similarly, while battery technology is improving, breakthroughs that dramatically alter the cost, resource dependency, or recycling efficiency for the mass market are still largely in the research and development phase or early stages of commercialization. We are still some years away, perhaps even a decade or more, from a truly seamless and universally accessible EV experience where these concerns are minor footnotes rather than major considerations for consumers. My caution stems from the need for proven, scaled solutions rather than relying solely on projections. The transition needs to work for everyone, not just early adopters in well-serviced urban areas.
A question for both of you then. What role should governments play in either accelerating EV adoption or addressing the challenges that you've outlined? Dr. Hayes, perhaps you first?
Governments have a pivotal role. They can accelerate adoption through financial incentives like purchase subsidies and tax credits, especially to offset the initial higher cost of EVs. Investing in public charging infrastructure, particularly in underserved areas and along major transport corridors, is also critical. Furthermore, governments should set clear targets for emissions reductions, implement regulations that encourage automakers to produce more EVs, and fund research and development into next-generation battery technology and recycling solutions. Standardization of charging protocols would also greatly improve user experience.
Mr. Skeptic, your thoughts on the government's role?
I agree that governments have a role, but it should be carefully considered to avoid distorting the market or picking technological winners prematurely. While incentives can help early adoption, they should be time-limited and targeted to ensure they are cost-effective and equitable. Investment in R&D for a broad range of clean transportation technologies, not just battery EVs, is important. Government should also focus on ensuring the electricity grid is robust and increasingly powered by renewables to support EVs effectively. Consumer protection, particularly regarding battery life, replacement costs, and transparent information about the true environmental impact of EVs, should also be a governmental priority.
Very insightful. We're moving towards our closing statements now. Mr. Skeptic, would you like to begin?
Thank you. To sum up, while electric vehicles are undeniably a significant piece of the future transportation puzzle and offer clear benefits in reducing tailpipe emissions, it is crucial to maintain a balanced and critical perspective. The narrative that EVs are the sole or unequivocally best solution for everyone, everywhere, right now, overlooks substantial hurdles. We've discussed the environmental concerns related to battery production and disposal, the significant gaps in charging infrastructure, the strain on electricity grids, and the practical considerations of cost, range, and charging times that still affect many consumers. My contention is not to dismiss EVs, but to advocate for a more holistic, cautious, and diversified approach to decarbonizing transport. We should be wary of putting all our eggs in one technological basket. It's imperative that we continue to explore and invest in other potential solutions alongside EVs. These could include advancements in hydrogen fuel cell technology, the development of sustainable synthetic fuels for applications where electrification is challenging, and, crucially, a renewed focus on expanding and improving public transportation systems and promoting active mobility like cycling and walking. Furthermore, greater transparency regarding the entire life cycle impact of EVs, from raw material extraction to end-of-life recycling, is essential for consumers and policymakers to make truly informed decisions. We need solutions that are not only environmentally sound on paper, but also practical, accessible, and affordable for the majority of the population worldwide. Consumer choice, based on honest information and diverse options, should remain paramount as we navigate this transition.
Thank you, Mr. Skeptic. Dr. Hayes, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Despite the challenges that Mr. Skeptic has thoughtfully outlined, and which the scientific and industrial communities are actively working to resolve, the imperative to act decisively on climate change and air pollution makes the transition to electric vehicles not just a promising path, but a necessary one. The fundamental benefits of EVs are clear and scientifically supported. They drastically reduce localized air pollution, leading to tangible public health improvements in our cities, and they offer a viable pathway to significantly cut greenhouse gas emissions from the transport sector, especially when coupled with the greening of our electricity grids. The pace of innovation in EV technology, battery development, and charging infrastructure deployment is extraordinary. Costs are falling, ranges are increasing, and the charging network is expanding daily. The challenges related to battery materials and recycling are being met with intensive research and investment, pointing towards a more sustainable and circular battery economy in the near future. These are not insurmountable obstacles, but rather engineering and logistical hurdles that we are overcoming. To delay this transition, because the solutions are not yet perfect, would be to ignore the far greater and more intractable problems posed by continued reliance on fossil fuels. I envision a future with widespread EV adoption leading to quieter, cleaner cities, greater energy independence from volatile global oil markets, and a more stable climate for future generations. This is not a distant utopia. It is an achievable reality if we embrace innovation, support the transition with smart policies, and collectively commit to this essential change. The time for incremental steps is over. The moment for bold action in electric mobility is now.
Thank you both, Dr. Hayes and Mr. Skeptic, for a stimulating and highly informative discussion. You've presented compelling arguments and shed light on the nuances of a very complex issue. Dr. Hayes has passionately argued for the urgent necessity of EV adoption, highlighting environmental benefits, technological progress, and long-term economic advantages. Mr. Skeptic, while acknowledging the potential of EVs, has urged caution, pointing to current limitations in battery life cycle management, infrastructure readiness, and the importance of considering a broader range of solutions and consumer realities. It's clear that the journey to truly sustainable transportation is multifaceted, involving technological innovation, infrastructural development, policy decisions, and shifts in consumer behavior. There are no simple answers, but today's debate has undoubtedly provided valuable perspectives to consider. We encourage our audience to continue thinking critically about this topic and its implications for our shared future.